I've decided to send some Marvel cards into PSA, and in this video, I'm going to share with you which cards in my collection fit the bill. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swagglehos. And in this video, I'm going to share with you which of my Marvel cards I've decided to send into PSA. That's right, I'm jumping on this bandwagon. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think that I'm going to get rich off of this, or my plan isn't necessarily even to flip any of these cards. But really, I've just decided to do this because I felt like it would be good content for you guys. And it would be fun, as a learning experience to, send some of these cards. I'll show you guys what I plan on sending in. And then, the real fun video, probably, a year from now, based on the turnaround times, will be when I open these cards. We'll take a look at them together, and then we'll be able to evaluate, like, what is the market here? Are these things like worth $0 now, or am I going to be rich? I just figured this would be a fun video to do, regardless of the outcome. And a lot of the cards that I picked out are cards that I personally wouldn't mind having slabbed anyways, because I'm someone who actually loves my Marvel cards, and so I thought that this would be kind of a win-win no matter what. But before I show you the cards, if you guys could drop me a like or comment or subscribe if you're enjoying my content, love interacting with you guys. Let's keep the conversation going. All right, with that being said, again, I pulled out my binders. I had Marvel Series 1, Series 2, and Series 3 full sets, but I really only decided to do Series 1 because I think that those are the cards that are gonna, I think those are only the cards that are gonna hold value. I'm not as, confident that if this bubble continues to exist, or if this card craze actually persists, I'm not as confident that Series 2 cards will have as much value, because at the end of the day, it's all about what is the first appearance in this medium for these characters that I think are going to be the ones that people sought or are seeking, generally speaking. Like, once you see Spider-Man, if it's anything like comic books, like, a #1 issue of a new Spider-Man run doesn't necessarily have value compared to like his true #1 issue from his true original run, if that sort of analogy makes sense. So similarly speaking, I don't think that the Series 2 cards or Series 3 cards are gonna be as sought after as collectibles. But with that being said, there are certain characters that were not represented in Series 1. So I do think that some of the Series 2 cards and some of the Series 3 cards will have value if they are the first appearance of that character in that medium. All right, so with that being said, let me show you guys some of the cards I picked out. And again, I went through everything with like a fine-tooth comb. I really studied this stuff, and there was not much stuff that I felt like were gem mint contenders. I mean, if I'm being honest, really, I only have like 2 cards that I felt like, okay, these could be the ones that I think could get those high grades. So typically speaking, a lot of these cards are maybe 8s or 9s if I'm lucky. And then there's a few that I'm like, these are definitely going to be 7s. I'm going to show you guys those cards anyways. And, let's get into it, and we'll talk on the other side of the video. All right, guys, so you're going to get an interesting perspective of my desk with this camera angle, and I'm going to go through the cards and show you what I identified as good candidates to send over. I apologize in advance because obviously I'm using a webcam here and the focus is a little finicky, so I will do my best to make it a pleasurable viewing experience. All right, so the first card that I got here that I identified as maybe being a 10 contender is this Doctor Doom supervillain card right here. It looked fairly centered to me. It's not perfect, and from the perspective that you guys are viewing it at right now, it does distort it a little bit, I think. But this card right here, I think could maybe get a 10. I went through with light and the magnifying glass and everything like that. And generally speaking, it felt like it was pretty aligned, pretty sharp. Everything was super, super crisp and clean. So this was something that I felt like it had a good chance to get a 10. And then additionally, the other card I identified as being in really great condition was my Venom right here, which the print alignment looked really, really solid. And overall, the card was super crispy clean. Again, I apologize for the focus that keeps racking in and out. So those are the cards that I identified as like, okay, I'm definitely sending these 2 over, being that they're, really, really great shaped cards, and they're, very famous characters that people love. All right, so the next group of cards here that I have are going to be ones that I deem as maybe they're 9s, maybe they're 8s. if I'm doing this right. It was sort of hard to really tell because, you know, I'm not a professional in the sense. I've never done PSA before, but the first one I pulled out was this Wolverine, and this, of course, is going to be the card that a lot of people have been pursuing in general. This one looked pretty well aligned. There was a corner that was slightly, you know, chipped, I guess you could say. You're not going to see it in here to eye. You have to look really closely in the light to see it. But that gave me reason to think that this card might only be a 9. The other cards here I identified as good potential candidates. I have a Moon Knight right here. This one looked pretty well centered, but again, like the Wolverine, there was a chip in the corner, and that one, or not a chip necessarily, but like just, you know, there was a little bit of funkiness going on in the corner. So that one has me concerned for its possibility to get a 10. The other one I have here is a Silver Surfer. This one looked pretty good, but, you know, again, with all these cards that I'm pulling out here, again, sorry for the focus, all these cards had, you know, some kind of minor little defect that I could identify when I was looking at it under the, you know, under the light, it really close up, compared to these two cards where I couldn't find something perceivably wrong with them. A Thanos, I got a Thanos right here. This was, again, and my perspective on this was to focus mostly on character cards, because I'm not convinced that the team cards or the most valuable comic cards are going to hold value in the long run. I have an Iron Man here that looked pretty good. And lastly, I have a Nightmare that looked also pretty good. So these are the cards that I've identified as I'm definitely going to send this in. This batch right here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But I would, you know, depending on the price, I might send more. This next group I have is basically, I would be lucky, I think, to get 8s with these cards. This first one here is a Doctor Strange, which when looking at the alignment, it looked a little bit off-centered. The Stan Lee one, also, it had a little bit of, I don't know, kind of dirty griminess on it that I tried to get out with a microfiber cloth, but it was sort of hard to do that. This other one here is this Mephisto card. This one was really sad because this one actually I did think had a chance to get a 9 or a 10, but I actually did the thing I don't do, and I spilled a tiny bit of coffee, and this card happened to get hit. So in the upper left corner here, I acted super quick, and I had to like dust it off. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but essentially it had a little bit of a stain, and I had to kind of clean it up. So I definitely think that they're gonna catch that in the card, and they're gonna ding that for sure. This other one I identified here, here's a team card. You know, again, I think the team cards have potential, but this one is Sinister Six. I was thinking maybe I should send this one in because I think we're gonna get Sinister Six in Spider-Man later on this year. So this one might be a card that's interesting. And then the other two I wanted to show you guys is interesting is, you know, in the Series 1 section, they did not have any Hawkeye or Gambit cards. So this is one of those situations where I feel like there is going to be a market for these particular cards because these are their first appearance within the card set. So this Hawkeye and Gambit are the Series 2 cards I identified as potentially sending in. And then the last group here I have, which are going to be probably 7s, but I just wanted to talk about them. This Wolverine right here is a very popular card, but this one has a lot of kind of dings and stuff like that. It definitely wasn't the cleanest card, but you know, if this gets a 7, for instance, it might still be worth getting, because you'll see I'm gonna pull up later in this video an example of a card that is a 7 of this still selling around the $100 mark, so that might make it worth it. And then these last cards are, again, similar to Hawkeye and Gambit here. This Fing Fang Foom is not represented in Series 1, and we believe that Fing Fang Foom is going to show up in Shang-Chi later this year. Kang the Conqueror is not represented in Series 1. This card right here, I don't know if this is worth sending. This one is actually pretty grossly misaligned. You could probably even see it right there. The right side of the card is much thinner, but this is the only one that I had of it. But I did figure that sending in a Kang card or a Kang card might be something that people seek once we get him in the MCU. So I don't know if this one's worth sending. Probably not. And the last one here, just because I'm such a homer for Darkhawk, this is his first card, so I figured, hey, maybe there will be that small market of people who really want a Darkhawk card or think that it's kind of special. And, you know, I love Darkhawk, so I think it might be worth sending. All right, so those are the cards that, you know, I identified. Let me know what you guys think. All right, so those were the cards that I've decided to send into PSA. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like some of the cards? Do you think I should not send in some of the lower grade stuff? What do you guys think? Help me out here, because I'm trying to decide. Did the ones that I identified look like super misaligned? Let me know what you guys think, or if I should avoid any of the ones that I was thinking of sending in. All right, but with that said, I also kind of want to show you guys like the current state of the market and show you some things that I think are pretty interesting as it relates to this boom. And I want to pull up them for you guys right here. So one of the things that I have going on right now is an eBay watch list, and unfortunately these auctions are not ended yet, but they can give us a good idea of what is the potential for some of these things. So here are some cards that I identified as being pretty interesting. You can see right here, here's a 1990 Series 1 Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and this is a PSA 8, and that's something I'm really interested in, because like what if I get my cards back and they're graded 8s, for instance? Like what is the value that could be had out of that? Well, you see here, this is like a team card, and it was graded in 8, and as you can see, there's 9 bids, and the current price is $51. There is 20 watchers left, but I think it's safe to presume that this is going to end around this $50 mark. So we're looking at these sort of team character cards maybe being valued in the sort of $50 range, and as at a PSA 8, and that's kind of cool because essentially for me that means that the card will still carry its value, or the cost that it took for me to send it in. If I'm sending in a card and I'm getting back an 8, to me that kind of excites me, that like I'm not going to completely lose my money. Additionally, here's another card here. Here's like a versus card. This one also 38 bids here. You see $50. There's 69 watchers. It's a Spider-Man one, so maybe this is gonna at the last minute blow up and come the end of the clock, we're going to get a lot more value out of this. I'm not so convinced that these sort of like famous battle cards are going to hold the same amount of value. I could be totally wrong. Maybe people want to own this type of stuff, but I'm not confident. I just don't see it. But let me know what you guys think. Why do you think that the famous battle cards or like the most expensive comic book cards and stuff like that have value? It just seems like to me that those wouldn't be as sought after. Additionally, here you have a famous battle. This one, Hobgoblin and Spider-Man. This is at $30 right now, 10 bids, 61 watchers, so maybe it ends at 50. And then here's one that I think is the most interesting to me, that I want to see what's going to happen when this finishes. 6 hours left. Here you have a Wolverine. It's a PSA 7, right? So it definitely has some flaws, PSA 7, but already it's been bid up to $83.50 with 4 bids left, with 4 bids done and 31 watchers. So we're looking like, I think that this card might end in the $100 range. And if it does, that's something that's really exciting to me, because, here we are, PSA 7, if it ends up in the $100 range, then, even if I get all 7s with my cards, granted it's Wolverine, it still shows to me that there is going to be a little bit of a market that's going to, want to own some of these cards, even the lower grade ones. And for that reason, they might still hold the value that, it takes to essentially just send them in, and get your hands on a raw card anyway. So that's pretty cool. Additionally, I think that these cards, like CGC, slabs and stuff, are going to continue to hold a little bit of that value. For instance, like, even if you send in a early 90s Marvel comic that had like a print run of 1 million, like an X-Men #1 or something like that, even if you get it slabbed, typically speaking, you could still sell it for like $70-$80. So, losing the value, like even though the book costs $1 and, it costs however much it costs to get it slabbed, like you can there's still a market for that, even though there's an incredibly high print run for that particular comic book. And so I think with these comic cards, I think, we might still sort of see similar things where it's like, even though there's a high print run, there might still be a market of people who just want to get their hands on it. Similar to like pops, people still love their pops, but we'll see what happens. These are the cards I'm going to send into a PSA, and we'll check back. Maybe I'm not going to make another video for this until like 6 months from now or a year from now. Who knows how long it's going to take? We'll see how the cards do. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Drop me a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you in the next video.